Okay, everybody. So today we're going to talk about dictionaries quick. So first things first, a dictionary is roughly a list, but with non-numerical keys. So what I mean by that is a list, right? So let me just make a list here. So just going to call this thing test list, right? So lists are great for storing lots of information. If you want to store a whole string of numbers, like say, maybe let's do primes, right? So 6 still isn't prime. Okay, so me thinking aside, say I want to store a list of numbers, but I want them to be in an order. A list is the right tool for that. So lists are ordered and indexed by 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. And some of you are probably saying, Joe, lists start with 0, which they do, so good catch. Okay, so that's how lists work, remember? Okay, now the difference between a list and a dictionary is roughly that instead of indexing by 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, instead we're going to index by whatever the heck we want. So I'm going to just make a dictionary that I'm going to call Indie. And Indie is going to be a list, or sorry, I'm going to say list a bunch of times here because I'm an idiot. So Indie is a dictionary, and Indie has some properties. So Indie has a name, and Indie's name is Indie. And this is how you make a dictionary. You put in the value you want it keyed by, and then a colon, and then the value that should be associated to that key. So you can think about this as a, in other languages, this thing is called a map sometimes. So this is when there's an association between some kind of an input kind of value and an output kind of value. So in Python, they're called keys and values, and then the pair is called an item. So in this case, the item here is name, comma, indie, both as strings, right? The key is name, right? That's the thing you're going to use to look it up. And the value is indie. So let me grab some more items here, just so you're not having to watch me type. So Indy's age is 5, his weight is 70 pounds, and one associated to Indy is going to be the phrase puddles, because that's what happens when you have a dog and it has an association with number 1. Okay, so this is really just purely demonstratory, or purely an example. I don't think that having like this item here doesn't really make any sense, but I need to show you kind of how this works. Okay, so there are a bunch of different options for getting things out of this. So for instance, one of them is just to iterate through it because it looks like a list, so I should be able to do something like this. So I should be able to do something like for x in Indie, print x. And then the question is, what does it think in this dictionary means? So is that going to give me a key? Like, is this going to print out all the keys? Is it going to print out all the values? Or is it going to maybe print out all the items? So the keys would be name, age, weight, and 1. And the values would be Indie, 5, 70, and puddles. And then the items would be name Indie, age 5, weight 70, 1 puddles, right? So let me hit this. And one, I'm getting invalid syntax because I copy and pasted badly. Okay, let's see, what are my other syntax issues? Missing white spaces. Oh, so I'm missing a whole bunch of white spaces up here. Fine, that's a valid complaint. I don't have a new line at the end of the file. Try that again. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Syntax concerns aside, I now have printing out name, age, weight, and 1. Okay. So this prints out the what were those? The items, values, keys. Those are the keys, right? Those are the first items. So that prints out the keys. Let's try another one. So let's do for. It seems like I should probably be able to do something like for keys and values in Indy. We should be able to print out something like key, comma, value, right? Does that thought process make sense? Like, it really does contain 2 pieces of information, so I should just be able to go through and get both of them out at the same time. So if I hit go, I get too many values to unpack. So that's because what it means to be in Indy is that means it's in the list of keys, right? So if you want to get the items out of a dictionary, you just do the dictionary's name dot items. And that's a method, and what it returns is a list of tuples or a collection of tuples. So now if I hit go, I get, okay, so this one's printing out the keys, right? And then this one's printing out the pairs. So I have name, Indy, age 5, weight 70, 1 puddles. And if I just want the values, right, I could do this, or I could do, let me copy these guys. I'm guessing that if it's got an items thing, it probably also has a values thing. Oops. My guess is that that probably is also a method. This one we could do for x in indy.keys, which would maybe be a safer alternative. Okay, so now if I hit go, I get, oops, that should be saying that it prints out the values, and I should probably put some diagnostic print line stuff in here. Oops. Okay, so let me just clean up my. So this first one was keys, the second one was values, the third one should be items. Let's hit go. Okay, so the keys are name, age, weight, 1. The values are Indy, 5, 70, and puddles. The items then are name, Indy, age, 5, weight, 71, puddles. Okay, so this is kind of how you get at stuff in there. Now, oftentimes it happens that you're trying to look something up, like you have a dictionary that already exists and you want to see if something's in it, right? So you might do something like Indy and then square brackets, and let's see, let's print out Indy's name. Okay, so I'm going to make a print a formatted string that says the name in the dictionary is Indy name. Okay. Oops. Okay, so right now what it's telling me is it's saying name error, name is not defined. That is a really confusing error. That is saying that the variable name doesn't exist, right? So what I needed was I needed the string name here to go look it up in the dictionary. Invalid syntax. Why are we invalid What did I lose? Okay, let's try that without the fancy formatted print line. Great, I'm just doing diagnostics. I don't know exactly why it's annoyed at me. And oops. What the heck? I had to click at the beginning of this line. Alright. Try now. Okay, so it happily did that, and so I must have had a... Oh, I bet I know what my issue is. So see the single brackets? My guess is that they were kind of borking up my print line. Right, because this one's probably getting tangled with that one, so let me just double quote the outside piece and see. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is one way to look things up in a dictionary. This does have the problem of if you kind of misspell this thing, like where you're not sure whether it's in the dictionary or not, right? So you're looking up a customer in the database and you're not sure whether the customer has a phone number entered or not. Right, so if I try to like look up Indy's phone number, right? So if I go look up Indy's phone number, I get this key error phone number, which doesn't really tell me much. What that means is that the key phone number isn't in the dictionary. So personal preference, I don't like looking things up in dictionaries this way because they're not lists. You shouldn't, they're just not lists. They're better than lists. They have more things than lists. They're more complex. So if you just treat it like a list, you run into this error all the time. It happens. The best way to do this is instead of doing the brackets, use the get method. So what I'm doing here, right, is I have in this piece, I have indy.get, so dictionary's name, and then call the get method on the key that you want. And this is going to return the value if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it's not going to raise an error. It's just going to return none or whatever default answer you put in here. So let me show you that right now this is returning none. Right? So let me just put in a default value. So if you do a comma and then put in your default let's see, maybe let me just go with something shorter. So I'm just going to put out a string as my default that just says not found. Right. So now that phone number in the dictionary is not found, right? Because it's not in there, so it should be not found. It's just a philosophical difference. If you want it to raise an error, use the square bracket method. If you want it to try and then have a default thing if it doesn't, if it's not found, then use this. It's sometimes you want one, sometimes you want the other. Most of the time I want the get method. If you want to, say something, you can either use this defaulting thing, or if you want it to act differently, you can use, if not indy.get phone number, and that'll act like it's, yeah. So let me maybe say something like that. So if not indy.get phone number, right, so if I go get Indy's phone number and it's none, then not none feels true, right? So if not indy.get phone number, print something like, let's see, maybe something along the lines of Indy doesn't have a phone number in the system. All right. See how that works? So you can, because the result of this, right, is none, and not none is a truthy kind of value. So this acts like this is not indie.get phone number, acts like true. Okay, so that's kind of getting things, manipulating what's already in there. If you want to add things, okay, so adding to a dictionary. There's a couple different ways you can do this. Probably the easiest one is just to set the pair. So if you want to set the pair, you just do something like, let's see, what is indie missing? Indie's missing a color. So I do something like indie square braces key value color is a blue marrow, which I think is spelled this way, maybe. I don't know. Okay, and then let's just see what it looks like when you just print a dictionary by itself. Okay, so when I printed this, I got, yep, my last item is color blue marrow, just went straight in there, no problems. If you want to delete things, okay, so if you want to delete things, the probably best way to do it is to do indie.pop and then put in the value you want to take out. So like, I'm not a fan of this one value that I put in there, so I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to do print the result of this, because I want you to see what happens. So 1 is the key, right? So if I hit go here, I get a return that is the value for the key that you popped. So let me again print indie to see that that made a difference here. Okay, so see how now in the second time I print it, it no longer includes that 1 in puddles. You don't have to do anything with this return value. If you just want an item out of the list, you do indie.pop1. It's fine. There is another pop command that or another pop method that you'll find that's called pop item. If you use the pop item command, or sorry, I keep saying command. If you use the pop item method, it depends on which version of Python you're running. So in the 3.7 and later releases, it works a certain way, and in the 3.6 and earlier releases, it works a different way. I would just stay the heck away from it for right now until it's stable, like until people's versions stabilize. If you want to look into it, you can kind of fiddle with it yourself. It's not super hard. Do be aware that if you use it before 3.7, it removes a random item from the list, which is not a very useful behavior, I find. Another thing you can do is you can call the del command. You can use the, sorry, I keep saying command. You can use the del keyword. So if you want to delete Indie's entry for color, we can do that this way. See how the color entry went away now? Okay. This is a little bit, let's check that this works the way I think it does. I have this sneaking suspicion that if I pass this one something that's not in there, it won't really matter. Oh, perfect. It does still raise a key error. Okay, good. All right, never mind. Good talk. It doesn't matter which of these you use. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of the pop method, but you can use the del method if you want. I just don't really like using these square brackets with dictionaries. That's maybe personal preference. Okay, yeah, of course, no new line at the end of the file. All right, good. Last things last, if you want to delete everything that's in a dictionary, you can use the clear method. So now it's empty. That works well if you're using this to save games or something. Do be aware that if you relabel a dictionary, like say, all right, I want to make a dictionary called blue, and then I'll just change some stuff. So I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna say this deletes all items. Okay, so, whoa, that's not how you spell warning. I'm gonna, okay, so copying and aliasing dictionaries are different things. Say, you know, I have another dog, right? So I'm just gonna say blue is Indy, right? And then I'm just gonna change some stuff about blue. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna overwrite blue's, let's see, blue, I'm gonna overwrite blue's name and weight. So blue's name is blue, obviously. And blue's weight is, she weighs 28 pounds, fishes. Okay. And then let me print out blue here. Okay, so I got things about blue. Great. That seems like it makes sense. Nothing weird here at all. If you print out information now about Indy, though, what is this one in? Multiple spell. So if I print out things about Indy now, oh, it just printed blue's stuff twice. You guys see that? So this line here just creates an alias, but they still point at the same place. So because they still point at the same place, changes made to one will change the other. So if you want to actually copy a dictionary, you need to use the copy method. Okay, so this is aliasing. This is copying. And the way you copy is you do indy.copy. So you're taking the dictionary and you're calling the copy method on it. And now when I hit go here, I get actually the two separate dictionaries, right? One for each dog. Is that, hopefully that process makes sense. No, you could probably do all this stuff by making your own object class, right? Like this is, you know, this is actually exactly my example from objects, right? I made an encapsulating object for the dogs. That was actually my go-to. So this feels a little funny. This is a lot faster. So dictionaries are just a quick and dirty way to say, okay, look, I want to store some information. It's got a bunch of different labels. All it is a simple association between the two things. So I just want to cram this into a thing. It's already got some built-in methods to it, so I don't have to program a bunch of new methods to deal with it. I just like slap all this stuff together. So it's kind of good data storage, and dictionaries are used pretty extensively for kind of data storage. When you like get data back from a method or something, it's often dictionary. Okay, so I think that's all my things. We need to say, all right, dictionaries come in key value pairs that make items. This is how you make a dictionary. right? It's with these kind of braces. Notice you can make dictionaries of dictionaries, which gets a little confusing, but is not impossible. Let's see, that's how we print out keys. We can print out values. We can print out items, which we should probably comment. Oh, do be careful here. If you name these in the other order, everything will get really confusing. The items are first a key, second a value. If you call these value comma key, it won't make any difference in the way that computer handles things because those aren't reserved words. Those are just names that I picked. So just be careful that you remember that items come as key comma values, right? For the math students, that's x comma f of x. Let's see. So then we had looking things up, right? There's a couple different ways to look things up. I prefer the get method. Let's see. And then we have adding, perfect, aliasing. Okay, good.